We are Saint Mary Combat Champ 26, Sakima Mullings demonstrating boxing as well as web. On this part, on the wrestling mat, John Cho, Marlon Sherland from Canada. Those guys were my teammates in Toronto at York University. Here we are.
Hey, welcome back to the program. You know, it's Champions and Legends with me, Courtney Wallace. And today we're speaking about development, sports development, child development, building character. And, you know, we've been on this series recently where we've been looking at, you know, boxing in Jamaica, what's happening, what's not happening with boxing in Jamaica. And we, you know, ran into some gentlemen who have decided for a while to use, again, combat sports to build a character and to help youth, not just Jamaican youth, although today we're speaking specifically of Jamaican youth, but just to pass on what they've learned, what sports has done for them to help others. It's kind of like paying it forward. And we're talking about wrestling in Jamaica. Yeah, not one of them sports that you readily associate with Jamaica, but that's all right. You know how Jamaicans are. Give them anything, any sport, and they'll excel. And here's an opportunity for kids in Jamaica to excel, to learn, and to self-actualize through the sport of wrestling. So let's get right into it and welcome these wonderful gentlemen to the channel. We have Mr. Marlon Henry. No. Rick Henry and Marlon Sherland.
Yes, that's correct.
Up on the screen. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Good. How about you?
Man, I'm doing fantabulous, man. You know, want to say thanks to you for you know, taking some time out to talk to us, but also thanks to you for doing you know, what you're doing with the camp in Jamaica. But before we get into the camp though, let's talk some background. Marlon, let's start with you. Give us your background in wrestling, in sports. Just, you know, a little history on yourself.
I started as a 16-year-old, as a second-year juvenile in Toronto, and it gave me a sense of purpose. Yeah. So as a 16-year-old, I was introduced to the sport by one of my teacher coaches, and I didn't think anything of wrestling up until then, and it just became easy. I played AAA hockey. I played rep soccer. I played football. I bowled in a league, actually. But when I found wrestling, it just became that thing where it's like I was born to do it. I wasn't the greatest wrestler, but I was able to achieve a provincial championships in Roman Greco and in freestyle, and a national bronze medal as a youth. And since I became a man, I've started coaching. I coached for about 23 years as a community coach, and I was encouraged by a principal to become a teacher. And I went to Queen's University, became a teacher, and I've been a teacher coach for the last 20 years. And Rick Henry was one of my greatest adversaries in high school. He actually beat me twice for 2 gold medals, or 3 times for 2 gold medals. And here we are about 45 years later, trying to pass on what we learned as youth and how we kept us on the straight and narrow. Because a lot of my friends are either dead or in prison or have some kind of criminal conviction on them. So I went back to my neighborhood and I started up a homework wrestling club, Lexus Titans Homework Wrestling Club. And for the last 35 years, I've been trying to keep youth off the streets. And I've had help, you know, from different sources, the Rotary Club, the PO Police, the educational system. And it's great because Rick and we moved past, you know, our rivalry in high school, and we started wrestling at York University together. And we became teammates and we became great friends. And here we are in Jamaica trying to pass on this knowledge to the youth.
So have you beat him since? Have you gone back and take some revenge?
Well, you know what? It's a draw because he beat me 3 times. I beat him 3 times, but 2 out of his 3 times for a gold medal.
Ah,
So people who know what the OFSA championships is will know that, you know, when I beat him at the OFSA championships 11-2, that it was a real beatdown. But you know what? It was unfortunate I didn't win the championship that year. But as I said, it built the camaraderie. And when we started training as university athletes, I was a club athlete and he was a University of York. So, but we realized, put our differences aside and help each other to become the best version of ourselves as wrestlers and as people.
all
So
right,
that's what we're trying to bring to Jamaica.
all right. Rick,
Yes.
are we gonna have a tiebreaker? He says it's 3-3. The gold medal aside, can we have a tiebreaker?
So I never lost to him, so therefore he's in a different land right now. Yeah. Momentary lapse of reasoning. Yeah, that's
You're gonna blame it on the junior years, right?
yeah.
Yeah, man. But Rick, I know you're Jamaican, migrated to Canada. Give us a little of your background.
So for me, I arrived in Canada with my grandmother, and immediately we loved to watch wrestling on TV. Matter of fact, sometimes my friends would come over to watch my grandma because she'd go crazy. Once she even broke a couch, so it was quite the Saturday morning entertainment,
Okay.
So then I started wrestling in grade 9, just I like the one-on-one competition, I like that part of it. I just started wrestling rest at different levels, university, open, I was coaching Team Jamaican wrestling a few years back, so I've been around for a while, it's good sport.
Right. I know you've both decided. Well, you have your future champs wrestling. I know you've decided to set up shop in Jamaica, set up a camp in Jamaica. How has that been going?
Well, we're trying to find a location, so where we can have our camps all the time. That's what we're trying to do right now. We've met some good people so far on this trip, so we're gonna try and really just harvest on some more relationships, in Jamaica have some in place.
Yeah. So wrestling, like I said before, is not a sport that is top of the mind in Jamaica. What has been the response been like from parents, kids, just people in general?
I think it's been positive, like the old saying, every kid in Jamaica can't be a track star or play cricket, or football. People once they realize what it is, they like it, right? It's a really competitive game, and it's not you don't punch, you don't kick, there's other sports like that, but our sport's all about leverage and angles and so forth, right? So the response has been pretty good, and the more exposure, the response will be better.
We are Sakima Mullings dynamic warm-up at St. Mary Combat Sports Camp. This is 2026 version being held at the Port Maria Civic Center, Port Maria, right across from the sea.
But I also noticed that you have a couple of my friends, boxing coaches, who have joined the camp. What is is there a boxing component that you're adding to the overall experience?
Well, I just think both those sports are good for each other. The wrestling, the true grit, the strength of a wrestler compared to the great footwork of boxers. Right? I just think those sports can feed off each other. For cross training, we do the same thing in Dallas, Texas, for our future champs. Wrestling and boxing under the same roof, and it's worked out beautifully.
Right. And where in Jamaica are you staging this year's camp?
This year's camp, we're at the Port Maria Civic Center in Port Maria.
Okay.
Great location. The politicians here were so gracious to give us a space after a town hall meeting last week, so it's great.
Now, the question I ask is why St. Mary? Because St. Mary has this tendency to be seen as almost like, I hate to say it, the forgotten parish. Not a lot happening there. So, we'd expect that you'd be in Kingston or St. Ann, Montego Bay, Westmoreland, or, one of those parishes. Why St. Mary?
Well, St. Mary, because some of us have some properties here, so it's it makes sense to do something here. And like you say, it's somewhat forgotten parish too, right? So I think for all those reasons, we like being here. People are nice and warm. The kids are receptive, you know. Like it's small town atmosphere, so we definitely like that.
Yeah. St. Mary is definitely a beautiful parish, and does need some exposure. And again, if so much attention is paid to other parishes, especially where sports development is concerned, then it means that the kids in St. Mary either now have to make their way to other parishes, or they just have nothing. So it's great that you're taking something to St. Mary.
Yes, for sure. And like I said, we've had camps at Galena Primary, Marymount, obviously on Paget Beach, you know, the ball ground. Also up in Jacks River Primary, we had a camp there as well. So yeah, we've been down in this area for a while, you know.
Nice. So again, it's been said over and over, Jamaica has no shortage of talent when it comes on to sport. Have you discovered any wrestling talent throughout through the camps that you could look at them and say, these are ones for the future?
I think so. They've definitely showed the tenacity, the grit and the talent, you know, the athleticism. Yeah, but so we've identified quite a bit. The challenge is not really wrestling infrastructure in Jamaica on the ground, you know. So where you send them and so forth to continue, right? So we don't live here yet. We're only here 3 or 4 times a year, right? So it's hard for us to that's the trouble spot right now. Finding consistency after we leave.
Yeah. Also, are you also training trainers, people who that when you leave that they can continue the work?
You know, we haven't done that yet. So it's initially when we started at GC Foster back in 2016, that was how it was supposed to go. Is that we would train the students, you know, on how to wrestle and how to coach wrestling. And then the thought was they go out into the country and spread wrestling, right? So that was the initial thought. But we had some things didn't go our way.
Oh, okay. And as far as I know you and I in a previous discussion we had some talk about I don't even know if they're still active, a national governing body for wrestling. Is that still a thing? Are you interacting with anybody on the administrative level?
No, not much myself. Jamaica Wrestling Federation. I don't have much contact with them, not for any reason or another. Just I don't. But on an international level, they're recruiting a lot of kids from overseas that have Jamaica citizenship passport. You know, so they've had some good results. I think they're at the Central American Games this week or last week. Yeah,
Yeah, CSE. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Nice.
I'm not sure how they did. Yeah.
Right. And how long are the camps? How long do they last?
This camp here is 3 days, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So we have today till 12 and tomorrow till 12 as well. Yeah.
So is 3 days enough time? The first thing that jumps at me that it seems a little bit short. Is that enough time for you to get through, to enough kids to get through everything you need to do, or is it that because you're still at the infancy stage, so to speak, that you're just building from here?
Yeah, it's just it's an intro to wrestling, and boxing really. To see some may like boxing, some may like wrestling better. So it's just a basic intro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and but
how many kids
it's
have
more
you? Sorry, go ahead.
we it's more about the life lessons than just intro. What life lessons that you can gain from wrestling and or boxing or any other sport, right? That's what
Right.
it's all about.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit, because one of the things that has always held back, I know, boxing for certain, is that, like, trying to get boxing into schools and all of that. You've always had the situation where there are some people, ill-informed as they are, that you're teaching the kids to fight, and obviously these people, like I said, are ill-informed. Speak to us now about character building, self-actualization through wrestling.
The biggest thing for me was I learned tolerance, how to be tolerant. In wrestling, you have to be comfortable but being uncomfortable, you know? we're squatting, we're in wrestling, we're uncomfortable a lot, so we've got to get used to that, I think. But those tolerance, emotional intelligence, just emotional intelligence. That's the biggest one, right? How to You may be really, really upset, but maybe you can't show that at time, right? Just how to control yourself. Someone says something that you don't like, don't strike back. Sometimes walking away is the best thing to do, right? Control your emotions, right? Believe in who you are,
Right. I mean, Marlon, from what you've seen, this is not your first year, is it? No.
No, I've been here since 2017 with Rick,
Okay.
once a year helping him out.
Okay. And over that time, I mean, I know one of the things that you hear from just about everybody who comes in is just the hunger, the enthusiasm, and the hunger from the kids to do well and just to be a part of this. Speak to us about what you've seen from the camps and the kids that you've seen over the years.
Well, we have another coach from Canada that came with us, Mr. Johnny Cho, and we had a discussion a couple nights ago. And I told Rick, if I had the opportunity to work with a few of the kids we've seen, within 8 or 9 months, I can have them competitive with any kid on the planet. And, Rick had told me that's a bold statement. But back in Toronto, I'm known as the coach that finds gifted rookies. I don't know how to coach, I just find gifted rookies. But I believe in myself that I can motivate the right child to be the best version of themselves in wrestling. And the fact that I played hockey, soccer, football, and all that, I encourage kids to do cross training and do all that, to have, some active rest when it's not wrestling season. So, and me being a born Jamaican, I came from Lionel Town in Clarendon. When I went to Canada, you know what I mean? I had to find my way, and it was hockey, lacrosse, and football was the main thing in my town. So I chose hockey.
Man, you're an unusual person. You left Jamaica to go play lacrosse of all the sports.
Well, I didn't play lacrosse, but you know what I mean. I played ice hockey. I became the captain of my AAA ice hockey team, and the rep soccer team. I became the captain of that. So I've been very fortunate with sports. As I said, I wasn't the best athlete, but I was the hardest working athlete out there. I'll outwork anyone at any time. To this day, at 60 years old, I still challenge athletes to outwork me.
Yeah. Well, I was really messing you with it with lacrosse because I ended up in a similar situation in Chicago where I was called to commentate, to call a lacrosse game. I'm like, dude, I've never even watched a lacrosse game. I know what it is, I've seen it, but I've never called it. And sure enough, they gave me what? I had 4 days to prepare, and actually called an entire season for what, NCAA Division 2, I think it was. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a fast-paced moving game. It's insane. I
mhm.
love it. I love watching the Toronto Rock. Go Rock.
Yeah, and of course, with me being a football soccer guy, you're watching the game and you keep have to be reminding yourself, no, this is not football. That's not how it goes. Kind of a thing. So it was an adjustment. It was an adjustment. But we as Jamaicans,
Yes.
we adjust to anything, man.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this though: you've seen that talent, and I guess both of you, Rick, both of you can answer this question. How then do we not just discover the talent, but harness the talent and keep them interested, keep them trained, keep them going, especially since you guys are still now trying to find that base and to have trainers on the ground to keep the program going. How do you maintain a program so you don't lose kids, even if they're cross training in doing football, soccer, cricket, whatever else that they're doing?
Well, as Rick says, we have to find a stable location. And Miss Ethel Douglas, the CEO of the corporation, she's joined forces with us and lend us the facility of the Civic Center. So if we can nurture that relationship with the Civic Center and the Public Works, and have some place where the kids can come on a regular basis to train. And as you were asking Rick earlier, if we can train the trainer, so we find somebody down here in Sakima, he seemed to be really interested in being a part of this. So he lives here. So if we can get him to come down once a month and orchestrate something where we leave somebody who with some wrestling experience, and we have the coach for Jamaica from Toronto, also Mr. Ken Burgess, and he and I are in contact on a regular basis. So hopefully we can be able to feed the Jamaica Federation with athletes that have the means to go to Kingston and train and or Montego Bay and train and continue going. Because I think 5 years ago we met a young lady, very shy, just did not want to participate, and I encouraged her to participate. And last year on Pagy Beach, I saw her shoot a double leg attack on a boy. And I mean, on one hand, I was concerned about the boy, but the other hand, I was giving her a thumbs up. That was brilliant. And she had gone to a tournament, so she understands the rigors of getting out of your comfort zone and being a wrestler. And she's if you saw this young lady, very quiet, very mild mannered, but on the wrestling mat, her inner beast comes out. So that's why I told Rick that if we can harness some of these kids that we've come across from Jack's River, from GC Foster and all that, and just have some consistency with them. So right now, if we can get a location, because Rick Henry has a wrestling mat on the island, if we can put it somewhere where the kids can come, because they're very resourceful, so they can, they can take what we teach them and expand with it, right? Because I've seen kids do things that university athletes are not able to do unless trained and coached. And you just saw us one day on the beach, and they were doing this stuff. Morning. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why I'm confident that if these kids had the facility and had a coach with the know-how, they can be world class in 3 to 5 years.
Right. Well, you know what, gentlemen, have open mic. Go ahead and appeal to, maybe business leaders in Jamaica, or just people who have, one, the interest, and two, the wherewithal to partner with you guys to create this facility so that this program can continue. Go ahead and make the appeal right now.
So if there's any business owners out there or persons that have the means, Rick Henry has put up his money. He didn't just come down here and talk about a talk. He put up his money and he brought a wrestling mat to the island, and he's making sure there's kids, are being invited out to this from all rural communities. As I said, we go to Jack's River, we go to Pagy, we go all over Jamaica to encourage kids to come out and do this. So please help us find a location that we can sustain on an annual basis and have the kids starting representing Jamaica. We love the fact that the diaspora's kids are representing Jamaica, but we want homegrown talent. So come on, Jamaica, step up, help us do this, because it's a great opportunity for our kids.
Yeah. Rick?
I'm actually trying to teach my daughter to become a coach when she retires from wrestling in Canada, to come and be a female coach in Jamaica.
Oh, nice. Rick?
Well, for me, it's all about it's social development. Why wrestle? What will I gain from the sport? And again, I say it's tolerance. It's patience, it's perseverance. Um, when the youth get into the workforce, they're not always going to like their neighbor in a cubicle or whatever. But hopefully, if you've done sport like wrestling and boxing, you build up some tolerance, right? To get to where you want to get, in due time.
Yeah.
But a location definitely would be great for us down here. A consistent location, right, where we can build on. If it's twice a year, clinics and so forth, that's where it is. But there's plenty of people who call all the time. Do you guys have a mat in Jamaica? Where can I wrestle? Do you have a brick and mortar? So we're slowly getting there, but yeah, a consistent location will be great right now.
Yeah. And I know you're in St. Mary, and you obviously love St. Mary because you've been across the parish. Are you opposed to, let's say somebody from Hanover called, or somebody from St. James called, would you be opposed to to setting up shop elsewhere outside of St. Mary?
Absolutely. Whoever wants what we're offering, we'll be glad to help. partner with them, organizations, whether it be churches or whatever, businessmen if they have warehouse spaces and so forth, whatever it may be, we're willing to partner. Yes.
Okay, great.
Well,
And and of course, it would be great if even a school, because the schools, they pretty much have it ready made with their gym, their gym, their halls or the gyms, whatever facilities they have. So it would be great if there was a school base. I know that probably can get a little bit more technical, but that would be great, because
yeah,
then that would
yeah,
be an excellent incubator, a good feeding ground, because you already have students
yeah,
there. So that would be great.
yeah. Yeah, I think the more exposure we get, the better, we'll be able to, people can see the blessings from wrestling and boxing, there's a
Okay.
lot to it. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Keeping the youth off the streets after school, they have something to do on weekend. I know that's what helped me to get by in Canada, so I think same principles can be worked out here.
Right, right, right. But then I guess if you know, because how big is the wrestling mat?
The wrestling mat I have here is 36 by 36. The bigger ones are like 40 by 40. So it's a good size, Right.
Okay,
We can probably fit 20 kids comfortably on it, 25 kids.
okay. I was thinking
Yeah.
of finding a space big enough if you're gonna have both boxing, set up a ring, bags, and all that, along with a wrestling mat. But it doesn't matter. Once there's a will, there's a way. It can
Yeah, as
happen
long as we,
somewhere.
as long as the building is clear span, right? We need that. Yep.
Right, 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 right. So all right, so it is now August. Is there plans for another camp before this year is out?
The plan would be at Christmas time,
Okay.
probably just before Christmas or just after Christmas. That's the plan because a lot of kids are out of school, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Great. Well, gentlemen, thanks for your time. I know you have to get out to camp
Yeah. Thank you.
to go teach
Thanks for
these
having me
kids.
again.
But man,
Yeah.
thanks
Thank you.
thanks for what you do. For the youth of Jamaica, for the sport, and we'll help as much as we can, because again, nothing would bring me more pleasure. I mean, to see kids, first of all, like you said, learning the discipline, just learning life skills, but then the icing on top for me is wrestling medals, CAC, Pan Am Games, even the Olympics.
Big time. Big time.
Champions,
Yeah.
Jamaican champions. Guys who are doing just like you did. Migrating overseas, and just doing well in the sport, and just making proper adults of themselves, so to speak. So thank you a million for what you guys are doing.
Anytime. Glad to do it.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
And and whenever you want, just reach out to me. You have my contacts. Let's like I
yes.
said, you have my platform for whenever and whatever. Let's
Thank
I'd
you.
love to be a part of the growth.
Thank you for sure. Well, give the last word to Marlon here.
I mean, he looks pretty relaxed for somebody who's about to go teach wrestling, man. What did you have, like a big Jamaican breakfast or something, brother?
No, mama, just have a cup of coffee and a slice of bread. That's already Ricky, I laugh often because I have a challenge with a 19-year-old boy who can show the best abs after 3 months. So I've been fasting, and he goes, "Leave the fasting to when you go back to Canada. We're here to eat and enjoy, because I love my cow foot and my yam and banana and everything,
Man,
right?" But I don't know if you can see, I'm a very portly man. I'm almost 300 pounds.
wow,
So, you
wow,
know.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
as I said, thank you for this opportunity. And for the parents and the kids out there, wrestling saved my life. And I hope it could save one or two kids in Jamaica. It would be the end goal for what we're looking for here. And I mean, each marathon starts with one step. And Rick Henry has made that big step and big commitment. So, business owners and everyone out there, please assist if you can. We can get it to a point where it can become a tax write off. And as I said, Miss Douglas, at the Civic Center has been a great help this time around. So we hope that partnership continues.
Right. And
Thank you.
for the people in St. Mary, you heard the gentleman. They're willing to go wherever somebody opens up the door, but they're already in St. Mary. Somebody in St. Mary, please step up and ensure that this camp stays in St. Mary.
Yes.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you much. And I know you got to get off to work, so we keep the dialogue going. And you have a great rest of your camp. Enjoy the rest of your stay on the island, and we'll talk later.
Yes. So for the kids out there, we're going from 8 to 12 today, and we go from 8 to 12 tomorrow, Tuesday. That's the Civic Center in St. Mary in Port Maria.
Okay. Now,
Thank you.
Here's one quick question before you go. For somebody who might see this interview or hear this interview 2 months from now who want to get involved, how do they make contact?
They can email the Ocho Rios Wrestling Club. Okay. We have a website. They can go on the Ocho Rios Wrestling Club website, or they can go on the Future Champs of Texas, and Mr. Rick Henry will respond. He's very good that way.
All right. Sounds good. All right, gentlemen. You have a blessed day.
Bless.
All right, man. Respect.
All right.